Good morning. How are you today? Welcome to a new class. Welcome to a new opportunity for you to improve your English and a new opportunity for me to enjoy myself with another class. Because I enjoy these. I enjoy these classes in spite of the fact that the lights are shining on me, in spite of the fact that I have to wear makeup, in spite of the fact that I have to sit within a certain range, rango, escrito range, a certain range, in spite of everything, in spite of the fact that I need to focus on a cold black camera, in spite of all these things, I enjoy it. I enjoy it. But Richard, do you prefer radio or television? I prefer radio. I like television, but I prefer radio. Yeah. And why do you prefer radio? Because I prefer it because it's more intimate. I'm speaking only the voice. And the voice is more powerful than the image. There's a saying, hay un dicho. There's a saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Una imagen vale por 1,000 palabras, dice así, ¿no? It's not true. It's not true. The voice is worth 1,000 words sometimes. If the voice can connect, people listen. People wake up, with us, with the right voice. And so this is a more powerful organ than this. This is a more powerful sense than this. The hearing. So, but in any case, shall we start? Shall we start? Shall we begin? ¿Empezamos? Okay. Page 69, gain fluency, at the bottom, at the last paragraph. It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. 2 más 2 más 2 son 6. Sí que, yes, it adds up. No, 2 más 2 más 2 dice 5. It doesn't add up. Y la situación no suma 6. Esta situación, mis expectativas eran 6. I don't understand it. No me lo explico. It doesn't add up. No suma. Se usa de forma figurada. ¿Se dice figurada o figurativa? La primera. Pues no, es figurativa. Pero la gente dice figurada. ¿Eh? Curiosamente. And so I say it too. Figurative. In English, figurative, like in Spanish. But in any case, it just doesn't add up. Cuando algo no tiene sentido o que no te lo explicas, es que no suma. Tiene sentido. It doesn't add up. Pero siempre con el up. It doesn't add up. You say you spent 25% of your income on food, 40% on rent, 15% on gasoline, and 35% on the rest. That's 115%. It doesn't add up. Better. How do you spend your money? Oh, I spend my money, let's see, 25% on rent. 25% de mis ingresos van al alquiler. Okay, de la casa. And what else? 25% on food. Okay. 15% on gasoline. Yeah. And the rest, 35%, on other things. That doesn't add up. En este caso es casi físico, no suma. Yeah, it doesn't add up. So when people tell you these things, 50%, etc., listen carefully. Sometimes it doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. You say you spent 25% of your income on food, 40% on rent, 15% on gasoline, and 35% on the rest. That's 115%. It doesn't add up. Fíjense. You spent 25% of your income, el ingreso, la renta que percibes, tus ingresos, income. O sea, que viene dentro, no sale fuera. Income tax. Impuesto sobre la renta, income tax. And so you spent 25% of your income on food, 40% on rent, 15% on gasoline, and 35% on the rest. Siempre de gastar dinero en algo es on. Richard, yeah. What do you spend the most money on? I don't know. I think I spent the most money on houses. Houses, yeah. But do you rent a house? No, I don't rent, but I have the EB, the property tax, other tax, everything. In the end, it's a lot of money. Okay. Now, I don't know what I spend the most money on. I don't really know. I don't spend much money. Really, I don't. I'm very prudent. Prudente. I'm very prudent. I'm very conservative with my money. All right, the first paragraph on page 70, and then we'll move on. And then we'll move on to something else. At the top of page 70, paragraph 621. Where does he live exactly? I live just across the Brooklyn Bridge. So if he lives in Lower Manhattan, I can probably walk there in less than half an hour. Where does he live? ¿Dónde vive él exactamente? Where does he live? Where does he live? Where does he live? Where does he live? Practica esto, por favor. Third person singular, interrogative. Where does he live exactly? I live just across the Brooklyn Bridge. The Brooklyn Bridge. Okay, so do I live in Brooklyn or in Manhattan? Well, I don't know. You live just across. The Brooklyn Bridge is from Manhattan to Brooklyn. And you say you live just across the Brooklyn Bridge. Well, which way? I don't know, man. Well, listen to the paragraph again. Listen. I live, where does he live exactly? I live just across the Brooklyn Bridge. So, if he lives in Lower Manhattan, I can probably walk there in less than half an hour. All right. So, probably I live in Brooklyn, but just across the bridge. And because this other person, if he lives in Lower Manhattan is where the Twin Towers were. Lower Manhattan. Wall Street is in Lower Manhattan as well. The Bowery is in Lower Manhattan. And you have the Brooklyn Bridge. That's the first bridge built across the East River. The East River, New York City consists of 5 boroughs. Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, and Staten Island. Now, Manhattan is an island. On one side, you have the Hudson River, which comes from upstate New York. Very impressive, powerful river, the Hudson River on one side. And on the other side is New Jersey, the state of New Jersey. But on the other side, you have the East River. You have the building, Las Naciones Unidas, the United Nations building on the East River. You have Roosevelt Island, etc., etc. But the East River is not a river. It looks like a river because it's between Long Island and Manhattan. But it's part of the sea, the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean. But it looks like a river, so we call it the East River, but it's salt water, it's not fresh water. And you cross and you have Long Island. And the first part of Long Island is Brooklyn and Queens. Brooklyn and Queens. Donald Trump is from Queens. But Brooklyn is very famous. And the most famous bridge was the first bridge to be built across the East River was in the 1880s, 125 years ago, and it's called the Brooklyn Bridge. Have you ever been to New York? No? Okay. Well, if you go to New York as a tourist, of course, you go to the Empire State Building, you go see the Statue of Liberty, you cross on the Staten Island Ferry, and you walk across the Brooklyn Bridge and walk back. Oh, 1 kilometro, 2 kilómetros. It's a long walk, but it's worth it. It's an interesting walk. It's a very interesting city, New York. New York's an interesting city. So, and you have to go to Broadway to see a play, to see The Phantom of the Opera. The Phantom of the Opera is here inside your mind, etc. So, where does he live exactly? Where does he live exactly? Yo diría que el 98% de mí, si yo digo, traduce esta frase, ¿dónde vive él exactamente? 98% of the English students will say it wrong. Where does he live? Even advanced students. Tardarán en desarrollar la frase. Where does he live? Where does he live exactly? I live just across the Brooklyn Bridge. So, por tanto, if he lives in Lower Manhattan, I can probably walk there in less than half an hour. Yeah. It takes me 5 minutes from my house to reach the beginning of the Brooklyn Bridge on the Brooklyn side. And it takes me probably 10 minutes to walk across the Brooklyn Bridge. Then I'm in Manhattan, Lower Manhattan, not Upper Manhattan. Downtown, not uptown, Lower Manhattan. And so after 15 minutes, then if he lives in Lower Manhattan, maybe it's only 10 minutes away. So maybe it'll take me only 30 minutes, half an hour. 30 minutes, half an hour. Okay, we'll come back to gain fluency another day. Philip Johnson. Philip Johnson. Yes, sir. Philip. Philip Johnson. Philip Johnson is a bit, se dice mosqueado. Pobre. Well, he's a bit, aquí le tenemos, no sé si se ve, sentado en un sofá como en el mando, cambiando canales, pero pensando. He's not paying attention. He's not paying attention to the television. Yeah. Philip Johnson is lying, no, está tumbado en la cama, pero hay televisor ahí. He's lying in bed. Philip Johnson, pobre, he's lying in bed thinking about George Clooney. Okay. He's lying in bed thinking about. Cuando estás tumbado en la cama, sí te lie. L-I-E. Igual que mentir. It's the same verb. But to lie in bed no es mentir en la cama, es estar tumbado en la cama. He's lying in bed thinking about George Clooney. His wife, Nancy, is still in the kitchen washing dishes. So he's in his bedroom watching television. No, he's not really watching television. He's thinking about George Clooney. His wife is in the kitchen washing dishes. She's washing dishes and probably thinking about George Clooney as well. Okay. All right. So, Nancy told him about the offer from Eddie Campbell. You remember Nancy's friend from the University of Kansas. She told him about the offer from Eddie Campbell to decorate George Clooney's home in Aspen, Colorado. Yeah. He's not worried about George Clooney. Yeah. The guy must be around 60 by now. Sí, tiene 60 años o más, yeah. Maybe. Yeah, he must be around 60 by now. And besides, he heard that up close, George Clooney isn't that handsome. I know. Handsome es apuesto, guapo, handsome. Se suele usar para hombres, no para mujeres, handsome. Handsome. And according to what Philip Johnson has heard is up close, muy de cerca. He's not so handsome. He's not so handsome. Bueno. All right. I remember a woman in Ohio, in the estado de Ohio. And she said, we were having dinner, and she said, this is 20 years ago. She said, I told my husband that I would always be faithful to him, siempre fiel, except George Clooney. She said, if George Clooney comes to my house, I'm not sure. All right. So, but of course, the probability or the likelihood that George Clooney would go to Ohio to visit this lady was extremely remote. So, up close, according to Philip, he's not that handsome. What worries him, however, is that if Nancy does a good job on Clooney's house, she'll probably start getting other offers, which is true. You know, if Nancy takes the job, well, she's going to take the job. $250,000, it's a lot of money. But she's going to go to Aspen 1 week out of every month. Now, if she does a good job, then there's a dilemma because probably other famous Hollywood stars or other wealthy people, other wealthy people will ask Nancy for decoration jobs. So, boom, Nancy, similar to Marta with her photography. Yeah. Now everybody is calling Marta for photography for their children. Yeah. And so she has a dilemma. ¿Ahora qué hago? All right. Do I say no? All right. But in any case, that's the danger, that she will start receiving more offers of a similar type. A lot of Hollywood stars own houses in Aspen. Yeah, it's true. A lot of Hollywood stars. You know, a Hollywood star, has a lot of money. But a Hollywood actor earns 5 million, 10 million euros per movie. Sometimes 20 million euros per movie. Yeah. I remember, what was his name? A Hollywood actor from the 1950s and 60s, 40s and 50s and 60s. He said, acting is the easiest job in the world. And it's scandalous the amount of money they pay me for this silly job. Yeah, acting is simply getting in front of a camera and saying, darling, are you sure that you don't love me anymore? That's to act. It's very easy to act. Yeah. And they pay you a lot of money if you become famous. And become famous is not always dependent on being a good actor. Sometimes it's a question of luck. Who knows? But in any case, a lot of Hollywood stars own homes. Muchas estrellas de Hollywood poseen casas. Own homes. Own homes. A lot of Hollywood stars have homes, have houses. Tienen casas. A lot of Hollywood stars have houses in Aspen, Colorado. A lot of Hollywood stars own homes in Aspen. And Philip can imagine, or could imagine, Nancy getting involved in a lot of work there. Yeah. So Philip is thinking, he's thinking not necessarily about George Clooney. He's thinking about his wife getting involved in Aspen, Colorado. Yeah. But on the other hand, fijaos, on the other hand significa en cambio. No significa por otra parte. That's a very common mistake here. Muy común. It's very common. En un correo electrónico, una carta. Por otra parte, quiero agradecerte. Dice, on the other hand, no. On the other hand means por otro lado. Por un lado sí, por otro lado no. Por un lado, sí. En cambio, so on the other hand does not mean por otra parte. It doesn't. That's a very common mistake among Spanish executives when they write letters or emails. So, where are we? I've lost my place. On the other hand, it might be a good opportunity for him. Even though he's the general manager of a Lincoln bank, he's not a member of the board of directors. In many cases, he doesn't have the final decision. You know, Philip is thinking about maybe, he's thinking. Cuento la lechera. And he could go and move and take the family to Denver. Denver, Colorado is a big city, 2 million people. Yeah, Denver. Lincoln is a small city. In Denver, his son, Michael, could have more opportunities in basketball, you see. That's what he's thinking about that. Maybe he could find a job in Denver, or maybe in Aspen. There are a lot of rich people in Aspen, Colorado, who have bank accounts. Maybe in Aspen. I don't know. All right. But he could work in a Denver bank and do a lot of different things. Nancy could work from Denver. They could live in Denver, and Nancy could go to Aspen regularly. Aspen is about 2.5 or 3 hours from Denver. But in any case, we don't know yet. Nancy hasn't started working with George Clooney yet. It's going to be interesting. Okay, how much time do we have, Marta? We have, all right. To get rid of and to do away with. To get rid of. To get rid of. Deshacerse uno de algo. Deshazte de esa gorra tan fea. Get rid of that ugly cap. Get rid of it. To get rid of it. Now, to throw away is tirar la basura. To throw something away. Yeah. To throw it away. To get rid of it, sí. Si quieres deshacerte algo, lo tiras a la basura. Okay, some things. But for example, this telephone, you see. Say, Richard, that's an old telephone. Yeah. This telephone is, what is it? Versión 10, no? What version is yours? You have a different. All right. And so it's old, but it's very good. And in fact, I've read that version 10 is the best of all the versions. Yeah. My son gave me this telephone for Christmas, maybe 9 years ago. And it still works fine. And about a month ago, a person told me that version 10 has the best batteries, long-lasting batteries. Okay, so I'm lucky. So I'm not going to get rid of this. Besides, if I get rid of this, to get another telephone, it costs 1,000 euros. Cuestan 1,000 euros, no? Are they crazy? The telephone is to speak to people on the telephone. My God, I don't need a computer here. In my generation, we prefer simplicity. So I use my telephone for the calendar only, the agenda. I use my telephone. I hardly use it for other reasons. I never make telephone calls, and I never receive telephone calls. I have trained people to contact me by email. And so I work with emails. Yeah. Maybe in 5 years, nobody will use emails. But it's interesting. But to get rid of. So I'm not going to get rid of this. I'm not going to do away with. To do away. Como away. Far away. Yeah. To go away. To do away with. To do away with is deshacerse también de cosas. To get rid of is un poco más. Get rid of it. Do away with something is decidir ya deshacerse de algo. To do away with. Yeah. You know, at my age, I think I'm going to do away with driving. I'm going to do away with my car. Yeah. Besides, cars bring a lot of problems. Well, a lot of problems. They bring a lot of concerns. You have to pay the traffic tax. You have to pay the ITV, the yearly inspection. You have to buy gasoline. You have to change the oil and the repairs, the maintenance of the car. You have to find a place to park the car. It conditions you. You say, no, I'm still looking for a place to park. You're a prisoner of your car when people are waiting for you and you can't find a place to park. So maybe I'll do away with my car. I'll get rid of my car. See you tomorrow.